What's going on, everybody? It's Engage the Sun here, and with the hold on, let me adjust this really quickly. With the recent announcement of Goner2014, I just decided to, why not make a little video showing you how everything was made? So let's go. Alright, so this is the first song that is on the EP, which is called Goner. And this is what basically makes up that project. So if I go in here and view, close all unforced windows, bring this back up, you can probably see in the lower corner of the screen from OBS my timeline. And I'm going to go over each and every single element. So this right here is actually, I actually made a mistake while making this and put it on the master track. This is just basically a 14-minute recording of my room. It was about 8 o'clock at night, and I was doing research on Photoshop, and I just started up Audacity and just recorded the ambient sound of my room, like cars going by, me typing on the keyboard, and shit like that. Gotta stay hydrated. And so then what I did with this was I put it into here. I first sent it to my timeline, and then I sent it back into the mixer, and then I put a Maximus, which has, what does it have on it? I can't really figure out. It might be a clean master, or it might be one of my favorites, which is the New York compression. But I'm not going to screw around with that right now because I'm afraid I'll destroy it. Just get rid of that. I also put a Fruity Love filter on here, so I put a low pass filter, and I turned the Y value all the way down and screwed around with the X value, so more, if I can remember this right, more bass can come through than more of the mids or highs. So it's kind of like a pair of Beats headphones. And then I went to the Fruity Panoramic EQ2. By the way, I really only use stuff that's built into FL Studio. I don't use Massive. I don't use Ableton. I don't use Nexus. I don't use any of that. I use the stuff that's built inside of FL Studio. So going back to this, then what I did here was I put on one of the presets of radio. This is basically the radio preset right here. I didn't screw around with any of this. It sounded just fine the way I wanted it to. Then I put on two reverbs here. One is a complete size all around the big as you can get. The wet value I turned all the way up, and the dry I sort of screwed around with a little bit. And then with this one I made more of a triangle bounce effect with the smallest size and the smallest amount of corners for it to scroll off of, but I also maxed out the dry, the early reflection, and the wet value. And then as you can see down in here in the little EQ tab, I turned the bass all the way up to high hell, the mids all the way up to a little bit towards high hell, and the highs to the same. And that gave me this. You can just hear the keyboard click right there. Okay, so let's get on to that bass note and clicking right there. So the bass note and clicking is a GMS that I have, which if I can look, it's pattern 3. So if I go over to my pattern table, I can go over to pattern 3, which is this. This is GMS synthesizer. Since for some reason GMS doesn't save presets, I have no idea what preset this is on, but I know that I just screw around with it because I can see the rate and the LFOs aren't normal, the pitch isn't normal, the octave isn't normal, the voice is definitely not normal. So I screwed around with this and it gave me this. If I have any presets on that? No, I just sent it to the mixer board so I can screw around with the volume. What else happens in this? Okay, so in the beginning of the song we have a rise of the background, and then we have a rise of the GMS synth, and then what happens near this, which I'll get more in depth into since some people have actually asked me about that. It builds up, as you can see right about there. And then it breaks off. So this piece is actually pretty interesting. What this is me. This was a recording of me in Audacity, which was less than a minute long. And just to make this clear, this wasn't towards anybody at all. This just came off the top of my head. Actually, no. This did not come off the top of my head. When I was in 9th grade, I wrote in this a lot. ETS Productions, because I wanted to make a video game, which was called... Hey? Really? Did I seriously not save any of my old pages? Oh yeah, I did. Here they are. Okay, so... back in the 9th grade, I started making a video game called Cold the Whispering Ashes, and I made an entire timeline too. So it's supposed to go Cold the Whispering Ashes, Cold a Walk, Cold the Arctic Crown, Cold the Grey Hunter, and Cold a Last Breath. And that was one of the main character's opening lines. This. I have no idea where that paper went. But I do remember reading it from here. This was a little music video that I wanted to make, but I never got around to making it. I never even got around to finishing it. So, yes, this was a line that I made in 9th grade. Not in 11th, which is what I'm in now. While I was making this, I was in 10th grade. This took about 4 months, every single song, to make. The entire span of Goner2014 took about 4 to 5 months to make. So this speech, the words that are in here, are from 9th grade. I'm in 11th now, so maybe this was affiliated with something during that time. I don't know, but for whatever it is, I don't affiliate with it now. So whatever it is, it's Goner2014. So there's nothing much to it. So it was a less than a minute long voice recording of me talking out of that little book there, and then what I did to make it sound like
I miss you. I miss the memories. I miss the toxic tinkle I would feel in my stomach whenever I would see you. I have my own problems now. I still haven't found a way around them. And it scares me. My cure so far is abuse. Abuse of the soul, the mind, everything I have that controls my mentality towards you is what I can hurt. I blame myself. I hate myself.
okay, so how I made this sound was I threw my voice into a vocoder. This was a custom preset that I made. So I had 64 bands of distribution, which basically sends my voice, the wave file of my voice, into a distribution of a code, or a distribution of a vocodec, or vocoder. So I'll just give you an example here. If you have 5 bands of distribution, it's going to sound like this. But if you have 64 bands of distribution, you'll have this.
I miss you.
It evenly spreads the entire vocoder throughout the wave file, giving you more of a detailed sort of effect. Now what I did is I turned my modulation all the way up, I turned my wet value all the way up, I turned my attack to, I can't even screw around with that, about 2 milliseconds. So that means that there's a 2 millisecond delay between every time something happens inside the sound clip. So if I were to go ah, the vocoder would pick up the ah within 2 milliseconds of it coming out of my vocal cords. So it might be a 0 millisecond reach to your ears, but it would be a 2 millisecond reach to the vocoder. So that gives you attack delays, which is what's like, or instead of going it goes something like that. And then release is just how long it'll hold a certain object until it falls off, and then it comes back up and then falls off again, which mine is at 0. Hold is basically the same thing as release, but it holds it in between times rather than releasing it going downwards. And the envelope follower is just basically, this is null at this point, because on the band gain multiplier, which is what I have right now, there's a line, there is, what is this called again? 0.12 to DC of 0 decibels. So this is basically a flat line within space. If this were to activate, there is nothing to activate this, so it wouldn't know what to do, so it would repeat between each band of on and off. So that's how you get the stutter at the end. I hate myself, something like that. That's how I get the stutter at the end of it. And I said again, 64 bands of distribution. I don't know what the hell order means. I just set it to 3 and went along with it. This is the bandwidth, so how much detail is put into one band of the vocoder, which, if I were to turn this up, it would get a rather than so if that makes sense. Like, I can actually show you right now.
I miss you.
Listen.
I miss you.
It's basically kind of like oversaturating a picture. And then you get this.
I miss you.
Something like that. So I usually keep mine at about 100%.
I miss you.
And get a sound like that. This is basically the modular bandwidth multiplier, so it basically multiplies the amount of vocoding to a single distribution, single distribution band of the wave file. So if you were to crank this towards the right, it would get more dense, but if you were to crank it towards the left, it wouldn't get as dense. It would actually start to distort. This is basically a modular pitch shift, which basically makes it deeper or higher, i.e. male and female, and then this is a choir, which I didn't screw around with it because I did and it screwed up. That's the basics of vocodecs, and then the same thing here. I used a radio EQ there. Maximus I probably used, that kind of looks like the New York compression, either that or a clean master. And then I used gross beats in the background. What gross beats do, it uses the sort of same thread as vocodecs, but what happens is that it takes the thread and sort of jumps it. So, as you could watch from here.
I miss you.
Did you hear the da-da-da-da? Or even when I go to my cure so far.
Abuse of the soul, the mind.
You hear that there, the What this is that it basically takes the wave file and gobbles it up with every single preset. So, like, you have Chaos 8 here, which will take it down steps, back up, down more steps, have a flat, down, and then up, down, 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 up. Along those lines, it'll distort things. So, the reason why it's not as harsh as other gross beats is because I screwed around with my mix levels, which is basically like volume of the effect. Obviously. That's it for the speech thing. And then at the end, where it goes, excuse me. Again, watch the envelope follower.
I hate myself.
How it activates, and there's nothing there to control it. So it just goes from 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and it keeps going because it has nothing to do, but it's still activated. So it's like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? I have nothing to do. That's the point. It gets stuck.
I hate myself.
Okay, so then we move on, and then this here, this pattern here, was this a... Yes, this was Emblem. This is one of my favorite synthesizers in Harmor. I love the sound that this makes. This basically screwed around with almost all of this, except for this. I don't really know how to screw around with that. But, yeah, this is what's making the sound, so... How long was this bar? Oops. I really need to pee, but I probably won't because I'll forget to cut it in post. Yeah, see, this was a 12 bar. Now, it gets confusing because this ends at 13, but its stem is within 12, so that's why you call it a 12 bar. And then this goes on, gains until we get here. Oops. Now what this basically is, it's a basic kick, the normal kick that you get within FL Studio. When you start up FL Studio, you get this kick. And what it basically is I stretch it a little bit and I put the speech sample on there, which gives it sort of this, and then it goes, and since it has 4 bars. And what I did with this is that I also put another gross beat on there, but I put a trance gate on there. I really have to pee. I put a trance gate on there, Fruity Love filter again, a twinkle effect, which gives... I can't really even remember what a twinkle effect... Hold on. Alright. So okay. Where was I? Yes, this part. That's not gonna... Okay, so that... You done? Okay. So that's basically just another FL kick, but time stretched to have more of a And this pretty much makes up Goner. So let's go to the next song. Okay, so this one is a mouthful. It is called I Will Be Forever Sad Because the Guardrails Are Holding Me Back. And this is what makes up this song. So as you can see, there was a little trial and error. Yeah, there was a little trial and error making this song, as you can see by the multiple pattern banks. So what happens is I used a tempo envelope to go from 60 to 74. That sort of speeds it up. So how I got this sound was I basically used the same synthesizer that I used in my Roots mix, which was harmless, and I screwed around with the attacks and frequencies and widths and everything. No real limiting composers or anything. It's just it's almost a modified, 8-bit synth. Oh no, this wasn't it. I'm sorry. That was the one I turned off. I used this one. This was, if I could remember this right, this was BH Shells, BP Chords. Okay, now I gotta reopen it. Yeah, this was BP Chords, but I screwed around with it somewhere. I think I screwed around with the wave shapes. So the composure that I did to make this was that I basically made the first line by hand. So I went dun 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 dun. I think I went from, oh God, where did I go? I went from 1 to 4. I made that by hand, which was a little bit difficult. And I made this by hand from what I did was that I just basically did... I did a riff machine from 1 to 2, and it gave me a basic line, and then I screwed around with that basic line to make this line, and then I multiplied it again within riff machine, and then I multiplied that upon other riff machines that I made within the timeline to make this. So it's basically working off the same backbone, but it changes frequencies and pitches from time to time. So I cut around in the ninth. Like in the ninth bar where it goes. No, sorry, from here. How it shifts like that. The riff machine sort of took it and made the octaves lower and screwed around with the octaves and said, so what? Before I finally determined on that, I was actually going to make it sound like this. Oops. I was actually going to make it sound like this. But then I realized I love this too much up here, and I just went with it. So, the drum beat. This. This was a sample from the FL Studio synthesizer FPC, which basically sounds like this. And I copied the note pattern and I sent it to DrumX, which has multiple drum synthesizers in it. And the one I used for this was 2-bit chump FG. And I think I screwed around with this on the mix. Nope, this was just the pure synthesizer. This is basically one of the simplest songs that I've made on the entire EP. This was one of the simplest. Okay, so this song is pretty much over. The explanation of this song. This bar here, this bar is just basically for tempo, and these two bars are related to this. But that one was never used. So these two bars are just not really useful anymore. So let's go on to the next song, which was the Roots mix that I did. Which I don't even... Yeah, it's in here. Okay, so this is the Roots mix that I made, which is basically called the Roots Don't See Us ETS mix on the Goner 2014 EP. So the beginning synthesizer line here, which I love to death. In fact, I'm actually gonna close all unforced windows again, and where's OBS? You still recording? You still going? Yep, you're still going. Great. Okay, so this synthesizer here is probably one of my most beloved synthesizers that I've ever used, which was this. Yes. God, I love this synthesizer. Okay, so this synthesizer is from Harmless, and it is called BOC Pad NUC, which is built inside of Harmless. So if you download FL Studio and you want to, say, make a synthesizer that sounds like this, or use a synthesizer that sounds like this, you can. It's called BOC Pad NUC. So this here, I did this. I didn't use Riff Machine at all on this. This was all on a QWERTY keyboard. I don't have a MIDI keyboard anymore. It broke. So this entire EP was made. Every single piano note that I used was either from a QWERTY keyboard or from Riff Machine. But the backbone of Riff Machine is from a QWERTY keyboard. So anything's possible, right? So what I did here was, what is D5? So I did this. Did this. Fuck, did this. It's off one. I can't really remember how I made it on the keyboard, but I did make it on here. As you can see, the note options are available. So I went, oop. And I went to F4. And I went E5. And I went F4 again. And I went C4. D5, A4, where is A4? And then I went to F4. See, not that very different from the original note, but it is possible on a QWERTY keyboard to do that, which is what I did. So then the beginning synthesizer line, which is just basically see, the only really modification that I did inside of the mixer board was just a reverb effect. Okay, so then we have this underneath it, which again is one of my other favorite synthesizer, which is BP Chords, I think. Yep. I've undone a knob tweak. Okay, I need to reopen this. Because I can't screw around with synthesizers. I can't do that with synthesizers. Open up this again. So then this line here was BP Chords. It's just basically screwed around with the volume, really nothing else. And did I do anything with this inside the mixer? No, not really. I just screwed around with the volume. Another reverb, but that was it. Same along with the BOC pad NUC. So then I break off from the NUC and then go here. Okay, so a lot of people were wondering how I made this. It is actually pretty simple. When I first imported the Roots acapella with Edison, what I did is that I chopped it from, I think, like the beginning part of the first verse where he goes mesmerizing, state of the art, caffeine, something like that, and I chopped it to only go mesmerize, and what I did was I put a gross beat on here, which is one of my favorite effects, which this one was Chaos 9. And I wanted this more radio feel to it, so what I did is I did a Fruity Love filter with a low pass where X was half and the Y value was all the way high. And then I did a reverb to just go along with it. But I actually turned off the reverb later on. This is what it would sound like if it did have a reverb on there. Much cleaner signal without the reverb. And then the first verse comes in.
Mesmerizing, state of the art, caffeine. It's overhead like omniverse screen. I'm not the average savage that curse queens. I'm something from his worst dreams. First we handling first thing. I'm subsurface unseen. Grab a whole planet by the purse strings. MCs are earthlings, not built to hurt things. Speaking the words of weaklings, nothing but sweet things. Man meets world, it ain't no time to recline. Act up, get clapped up, my mind is denied.
Some people have actually asked me about the snapping or the popping that happens in here. That was inside the acapella. I have no control over there. No control over that. So the sub bass, I had to add it in there since it is a rap song. It has to have sub bass into it. So it's just basically what's inside of the BP chords put into a sub bass from Citrus. You all remember that synthesizer. Everyone was just like, oh, Citrus can make good dubstep, but no one ever brought it to popularity. Citrus was pretty bad for good dubstep. Good dubstep beats, they're bad. So I just put a sub bass on here since I'm actually not that really keen on making sub bass, so I just used sub bass within Citrus. I also turned on the acapella from everything. I turned the bass down on all the acapellas because I wanted more of a radio. Excuse me. Jesus, I want more of a radio sort of vinyl feel to it. So, then we get to this part where it goes. The shuffle snare. So what this is that it's basically an FPC with an FPC Hip Hop 94 preset with the gross beat that makes it roll in reverse. Now the thing is that when you have gross beat working in reverse, timings are very odd. So this is why the pattern begins before the actual line, because you can hear when I start it, it has 1 bar of silence. Then it actually times. So, the same thing with ending it. You have to end it 1 bar less than your ending note. If you did, it would replay onto the other note, which doesn't sound good. So this is why it ends 1 note early than the beginning bar that comes into the next verse. So this is why I don't like to reverse within gross beat, but I had to do it. Random bars of silence. I just sort of felt it. What else should I do? That's pretty much it for the Roots song too. Is there any other interesting things? Yeah, this song went through a lot of tweaks. That's why there are so many mixer bars down in here. There's just so many. And also for like the for the verses as well, I put each one on a separate mix. So this one here, which I think was the second verse. No, actually the third. So
They all around me, on my head they got a
when it
bounty.
was
I'm trying to
when it was turned down to the normal mixture that I had on all the other acapellas, it didn't sound good at all. I guess it's just something to do with the acapella that I downloaded. So this has a different mix than say that acapella there. It's completely different. Still has a reverb on it. Actually no, a little bit more different volume. And that one was just tweaked differently than all the other ones. And as you could hear from like Yams, you know what I'm saying? It goes like there. I didn't really want to continue it because he goes, you know what I'm saying, you don't see us. but we see you. I didn't want that part in there because I didn't actually like that part of the song. But you don't see us, but we see you. I didn't like that at all, to be completely honest. That was one of my least favorite parts. So, ooh, also, by the way, all the vocals in here are down pitched. Yeah, these are not the normal ones, as you can see right there. They're all down pitched. It was very hard to sync beats up to it while it was down pitched, but I made it. So that's it for the Roots. Another song that was on Goner 2014 was "Forgive Me," or the original file of this song was called "Forgive Thy Thesis." This was actually released on my SoundCloud. The original version of the song was actually released on my SoundCloud before I released it onto Goner.
I've been 3 times in 4 times.
And if you've heard that version, it was pretty damn terrible. This was alright. Sort of got this more post-rock apocalyptic feeling, post-electronic apocalyptic feeling towards it. So, the beginning line. It sounds more like an emergency siren on heroin or something. This is basically one of my other favorite synthesizers, Toxic Biohazard, and this is the ATM Industrial TOTC synth to go along with it. I screwed around with both LFOs. This is a Noise 2 LFO, which is basically an image that the synthesizer works upon. Like if you ever, you wanted to make some sick dubstep beats there, bud, and you screw around, they say, screw around with your LFOs. Like, what the hell is an LFO? This is what it is. It's basically an image that your synthesizer will work upon. So this LFO here, Noise 2, is basically what the synthesizer is trying to rely upon. And as you can see, the speed of the synchronization between each note is how far the LFO will go into a note, if that makes sense. This beanie is really itchy. For some reason, I'm really uncomfortable right now. I didn't screw up with any of all this up here because I didn't really have... Someone is doing something really fucked up outside, but I don't know what they're doing. Okay, so I didn't screw up with any of this over here. And I just basically... did I do a fade on this, or was this just all attack? No, that was all attack to bass. Going from what I said before, attack, it's a slow raise. So instead of just going, you're just going to have like a slow raise. That's basically what it was. So it slowly raises. The attack right here in the master envelope is set to 10 seconds. 10 seconds until the peak note is achieved. Then what else happened? This was a 3x oscillator, which just basically... What did I do to this? The hell did I... Oh my fucking god, they're seriously doing this right now. They're seriously doing this right now. Oh yes, here's the reason. This has a AM filter on it, so I guess it sort of mimics an AM radio. I've never had to use AM radio. This took a little bit of time to screw around with what I wanted it to sound like. So really only these channels are really high, and the rest of these are just down. Fruity Love filter again, another low pass, another reverb, and then was this telephone? Yeah, I think this was old telephone. You get this sound out of old telephone, and then this. I took this from a news report back. Oh God, I want to say like 2009. It's really old. You can actually look it up on YouTube. You just type in UK suicide rates rise on YouTube, and it'll show that. So, this voice.
I've been 3 times in court trying to stop repossession of it.
Supposed to have the toxic biohazard synth on there.
I've been 3 times in court trying to stop repossession of the house. So I'm either in my wheelchair outside, or I'm hobbling around using my furniture, using my stick, here in the hut.
Okay, so this, to make that sound, was a Fruity Reverb, gone to absolute hell. A Maximus, which was, I think was a Basic Master. Either a Basic Master or POW, I can't remember what it was. Might have been Slight Warmness too. A Fruity Love Filter, which is basically a low pass. So it was half on X and then a little over a quarter on Y. An Effector, which was the basic, the main component of this. So it was a lo-fi effector. The X is somewhere in the middle and the Y is down, so it gives you that more can't even do it. There we go. Sound. Another Fruity Reverb. I tried it with a vocodex. I tried to get the same sound I wanted to with a vocodex, but it didn't work in the end. So as you could see, those are off. And then a Fruity Delay, which takes the sound and samples it from 2 to 3 to 4 to 3 to 4 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 7, 8, 9, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9. It gets confusing. So it basically multiplies your sound. So it will go no longer there, 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 no longer. So yeah. And if we just listen to this.
I've been 3 times in court trying to stop repossession of the house. So I'm either in my wheelchair outside, or I'm hobbling around using my furniture, using my stick, here in the home, trying to live a life. And, you know, when you feel very down places, there is nothing but blackness ahead of you. And at those times you need support. You need to speak to some people. But with the cuts that have happened, unfortunately, the support packages, the support agencies that are out there.
So what happened right there in that clip was it was basically just the X value going up, and then let's see what else went on.
With the cuts that have happened, unfortunately, the support packages, the support agencies that are out there. People, but with the cuts that have happened, unfortunately, the support packages, the support agencies that are out there.
Oh, the Fruity Delay is actually turned on. I thought this was a volume tab, but no, this is actually a on-off tab. So as we can see down here, if we look at Fruity Delay 2, you can see the green light come on. And what I told you is it'll. Also, by the way, what he says in it, what he basically says are no longer there. I've been 3 times in court trying to stop repossession of the house, so I'm either in my wheelchair or outside or scuffling along in the house using my stick, something like that, and blah 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 blah. The support packages, the support agencies that were out there are no longer there. So basically like counselors and financial aid. This guy, if you watch the news report, it's very depressing because he has 2 little daughters, I'd say around the ages of 3 to 4, and he's handicapped. He can't really afford to do much, and the UK really isn't supporting him, and he's been, suicidal at times. But he can't do that since he's got these little girls. He can't do that. So, and then we have this synthesizer that comes in out of nowhere. Just a basic raise. This was actually the synthesizer that I used within the Roots. So I saved it as a preset to Roots. And I just basically, I used it again. Okay, so basically this synthesizer here was just basically a whole bunch of gross beats put onto it with levels in the 20s to upper 40s, and those are basically on and off tabs. And then this here was a basic voice synthesizer that says Lord forgive me for what I've done. And this basically has a gross beat to have sort of the glitchiness in the background, a reverb, a delay, no vocodecs, and then another gross beat on top of it. So this basically goes on until we get here, which sounds Lonesome Goner, which has a fruity delay, fruity reverb, and a fruity parametric EQ on there with the old telephone preset on there. And then the bum, 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 bum you get from there is basically a bass drum. I don't know why it clicks in the background. I really have no idea why. But what this was just a whole bunch of effectors on filters and lo-fi, a fruity reverb, and a fruity love filter, which is basically how I get that sort of compressed, compressed, closed, sealed away, off somewhere sound. So you get just bass, no high, and sort of this sealed sound. And then it goes really well with the synthesizer. Along with the gross beats, where it just goes. Bam, bam, bam. So that's how I get that sound. And that is the end of the basic version of Goner. And the bonus song of Goner, called We Don't Have to Be, I'll show you right now. So this song, before I modified it, was actually called Dear. And if you go on my SoundCloud, this original song was called Vivid Dreams of Arcadia. And what we have here is a Rhodes preset inside of Harmor. I screwed around with reverb, chorus, and the just basic reverb, chorus, the phasers, envelopes, and frequencies. Basically tweaked around till I couldn't tweak no more. What else did I do in here? I had just a fruity love filter at the end, and a fruity reverb as well. And then here we have a pitch shift. Where am I shifting? Is that the dial that shifts? Nope, it's just the basic here. Oops. See this dial here? It's shifting to go up to 50. So I get this more melatonin feel without through it. And then pattern 20. Pattern 20 is the main one that comes after the breakdown, which is basically Rhodes, a cloned version of Rhodes, but at a much lower pitch. As we can see from the frequency here, this was set to 2 rather than 1. I screwed around with the phaser as well, so that's how I get this deeper sound. So then here, these voices. Some people have actually asked me about the voices, and I'll show you. I'll tell you how I made these. So again, these were the main components to the voices. Everyone basically uses the same lineup. So it was a vocodex, a Fruity Love filter, a Maximus. Is that it? Yeah. Some of them, yeah, most of them are that. So the basic build up to these is a vocodex, a Fruity Love filter, and Maximus. So this again was a basic custom preset, changed my holds and everything like these. I have a sauce carrier tone on here with, what is that? B5 and F6. No, actually, is it B5? No, it's E. I really want to say that's B5. I hate how it doesn't tell you while you're right over the note as well. Oh, it does. Great. Okay, so. Nope, it doesn't. So that is actually a C6. Oh, God. That's not a C6. It's a B5 and an E6, which makes up this sound. We don't have to be nice around here, which is what it's saying. So the love filter just basically set my X value to 50 and my Y to, I'd say, about 45. So it gives me this, it still gives me bass, but also mid and high compressions as well, but not as hard as it was in Goner or other songs as well. And this here in Maximus, I think this was either a New York compression. It's 3 things. It's either a knock, New York City compression, or clean master, or clear master, excuse me. Oops, nope, I don't want you. I don't know. Go, stop. Oh, by the way, how I also made these voices was the basic voice synthesizer within FL Studio, which you can activate by clicking on any tab within your beat thing, insert, go here, and then speech synthesizer. That's how I got it. We can do anything around here, my dear. Let us sift through the mud of this celestial sphere. And trust me when I say, please don't come near. So how I got that pattern is this? Pattern 19. This was basically a kick modded to hell. So it has a Fruity Love filter, a vocodex, and a Parametric EQ on there. Vocodex, I have no idea what I used on this. It might have just been the same thing as the deer. Same thing that I used as for the voices. And then here, this is one of my favorite synthesizers as well. Pattern 21. Which is, I think this was another BP shell again. I'm in love with that synthesizer. That preset even. How I got this sound was yet again a Fruity Love filter with X at 50 and Y at 25. A vocodex. This is a different vocodex. So the notes have changed now to A4 and B5. It's sort of gendered now to about, I want to say 350 cents towards male and 100 bands of distribution. The same attacks and releases and everything, but it's a little different from the other vocodecs that I used for the voices. And then a gross beat on here, which was Stutter 11. So you can find this inside of the presets. I actually made a custom preset for that as well. So this was Stutter 11, and then an effector, which was a flanger at X0, Y, I want to say 100. So then I got this sound. Why are you... Oh god, what the hell did I do? Okay, nope, nope. I don't know what the hell I did, but I did something and I didn't mean to do it. Shit. I gotta screw around with that again. Damn it. Go away, stop. Okay, so I don't know what the hell I did there, but I did something I didn't know to do. Okay, so this was the drum beat that I'm in love with. I posted it all over my Vine if you follow my Vine. Oh my god, what the hell was this? Where was it? Okay, so it was FPC, what was it? FPC 4? Okay, so I guess for this one I used Drum Max 2, which... For this, I used the Fruity Love Filter, Sound Goodizer, and Hardcore. And then this breakdown that I love. This breakdown. Oh god, this breakdown. Which was another Drum Max, but I don't understand why it's saying Drum Max rather than FPC 6. God, I love that breakdown. So this basically was the basic normal beat towards it, but instead I used the high tom, the low, and then a hi-hat, and then snare, and then another kick to get the boom, boom. Love that breakdown. Holy shit. I guess you could call it a breakdown. I don't know. So that's it for this song. That's it. That's how I made the entire Goner EP. So hopefully this answered all of your questions. And thank you for tuning in. You have a good day, good night, or whatever time it is. I don't know. But whatever time it is, I hope you have a good one, whatever time it is. And yeah. Download Goner2014, link in the description. I love you. Bye.